Welcome to Worth Your Time with your hosts from the nationally syndicated Bob and Tom Show, Kristi Lee, and the president and CEO of the Indianapolis Zoo, Dr. Rob Shoemaker. Our mission to inform, entertain, and educate with guests from all aspects of life. We guarantee there isn't another podcast that features two hosts with such different backgrounds and discussions with remarkable people doing exceptional things. So let's get started. Here are your hosts, Kristi Lee and Dr. Rob Shoemaker.
Welcome back to Worth Your Time. I'm Kristi Lee along with Dr. Rob Shoemaker, and we have a very fascinating guest in this month of October because
so interesting.
A lot of people, think of the Halloween season. I know my kids start talking about the Halloween season in August. I mean, they cannot wait. But Marilene Isaacs has joined us, and Marilene has been well known for, I don't want to say many years, but many years, as a spiritual healer, as a person that has gone to many haunted places, if you will, to try and heal and put spirits, if you will, back where they belong. Is that kind of fair? I mean, people spirits get stuck here.
Oh, sure.
And so I kind of wanted to know, when we start talking about the paranormal and ghosts, and you and I both know there are shows every day. You can turn Ghost Hunters and all these. I mean, it's become huge. You were one of the first ghost hunters, if you will.
Right.
And can you share with us some of those experiences and like the most haunted place that you've ever visited?
I think one of the saddest places, the most intense place, was Central State.
Central State Hospital is located in Indianapolis, Indiana.
1991, President Reagan they closed down all the medical.
Yeah, that's right.
So you walked in there, and there were still clocks on the wall. There were nurses' hats. It was so eerie. And
now what was the occasion you went there?
We were to study it. We knew we did a film on Central State because the filmmaker, Dan, that did the film, he had been filming something else, and he had all these psychic experiences. So he saw the spirits there. And it was everybody that worked on that show, even people that did not got sick. It was very toxic. They did lobotomies. They did very awful things there for a long time. And it was a very old institution, from the 1800s. So it was very dense with energy. You could feel the density of suffering and what people, we found old records where, a lot of people just put their wives away in there. A lot of people were just put away in there that weren't really mentally ill.
Right.
It was just a good way to, hey, we want to get rid of this person, go in there. So I think that was one of the most haunted in that way, because you could feel the suffering of people.
Were you able to help those spirits?
100%. We got on film. You could see the green energy when I was doing this one prayer and healing. You could see the green energy. You can see it moving
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're in a place like that, you've said you see energies.
Right.
Do you see ghosts? Do you see people?
It comes in different forms for me. So sometimes I will see the figures, but it's more, I'm kind of like a walking smudge stick wherever I go. It's like when I go places, things just kind of transmute, or I feel it comes in different forms. If it's a really important thing that I need to see, like a persona, or see like how you saw, I will see that. But for me, it comes very much like in the group energy of especially a place like that, because there were so many. Tony Kuritz's name was still on a door. It was eerie. It was like time stood still when you walked, and these tunnels there's 4 miles of tunnels under there.
Now, do those?
They turned it to housing now.
And they put houses there
housing.
now. Now, what is that? Is that like a poltergeist situation?
I saw that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll tell you about poltergeists. They always appear in a home where there's a 13 or 14-year-old boy or girl. And they know it's the hormonal shifting of the energy of the people, as well as they use that energy to. One thing I noticed right away, any paranormal stuff, you'll notice your phone will drain. You notice sometime if you go someplace and you start to feel something, swear to God, look at your phone. It will just drain the energy out of it. We're made of electromagnetic energy, right? So that's one of the most noticeable things that you'll feel, or like cold places. You were talking about that, where there's very strong unrest. You'll feel that cold. That's not a good. That's like the cold is bad. It's like
that's like our studio. But go on.
Yeah,
Not this
it is.
studio.
This would be true.
Not this one.
But this
No,
one's nice
no,
and
the
warm.
one I work in.
No, it's funny. Yeah, it's exactly. So yeah, there's so many types of things. What is the horrible thing to me? I never understand why people want to be scared, or how they make these movies where people want to be so terrified, or you know what I'm saying, or want to dwell on that dark.
Right.
And that's how the dark forces work. It is how the dark forces work. And there are dark forces. And everything, what's the word evil mean? It's veiled, it's hidden. So when it's like the light. When you have the light, it illuminates, and you can, but there are things that like to hide in the shadows. And I've worked with people with addictions for many years, and in Tibetan Buddhism, they call it hungry ghosts. We call them spirit attachments too. There are people that when they die, they don't want to go to the light. They're earthbound. They want to experience, it could be drugs, sex, work, food. You see these 600-pound people. You see people that drink and their personality changes, or they can't stop drinking for some reason. That's called the spirit attachments. And I've helped a lot of people with that. They've gone to all the addiction centers, and you got to deal with other things than. A lot of times they have this thing that they're eating for, or drinking for, or gambling for it's attached to them.
How do you get rid of them?
I work with Holy Spirit.
Call Marilene.
Yeah, exactly. I work with Holy Spirit. I work direct. I believe we all have a direct link. I think religion is man-made, different ways, different religions appeal to certain people, but spirituality, we all have a direct link with Holy Spirit, with God, it's not this personality. It's not a person sitting on a throne. There's only one body of Holy Spirit. And I think Holy Spirit's the persona of what people might want to call God or Yab Yam, or it's a Divine Mother, Divine Father communicating with us. And it's a very palatable thing once you know that. And children know that. They feel it. It's like a natural, there's this feeling of protection and a feeling of, so when I call in the Archangel Michael, and I work with Holy Spirit, and I go back to the points of origin, and I just pull out, and it's very simple, and things change. And people don't even have to be there in person. It's almost like anybody or anything we're talking about in the session, they get zapped. I've had people go home, they didn't tell the people where they were going, and the people go, I feel like I got struck by lightning. They'll feel like the energy. It's a real thing. So it's not just about spirit attachments, it's about healing. We all need to be healed of things that are lingering, that torture us, that rob us of our joy, that keep us in attracting what's familiar, not what's good. Because we tend to subconsciously attract, we're talking about narcissism, I just find every narcissist in the book is reminding me of somebody in my family. It's like you don't know why you do certain things, and it can present in a totally different way, but it's familiar.
Wow, I think you should say that again of what people attract.
We tend to attract not what's bad or good, but what's familiar.
That is a powerful
It's
statement.
powerful because
Wow.
it's so
true.
real.
Wow.
And
So
then you
true.
can think, okay, I get it, and then it can kind of sneak in and present in a totally different way. And you see it, if you haven't healed something about that, you can end up meeting the next person and think, oh, they're totally different. A few months later, it's like, no, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So we all have this inner soulmate. So the more whole you are from within, and you make peace with yourself, and you love yourself unconditionally, it heals a lot of that familiarity. You start to discern. It's one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, discernment. You start to go, oh, no, wait a minute. No, this is familiar, not the right thing, before you get totally pulled into it.
So can you help me? I think you describe yourself as clairvoyant. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So
Clairaudient, I do all of it, kind of hear, feel,
Okay.
see, yeah.
So I think when people hear that word, a lot of people think, oh, you can see the future, or you know what's coming.
Interesting.
Or is that,
Well,
how
what's
do you
interesting-
define it?
well, what's interesting? Well, clairvoyant, there's different things, right? But this is how, when I used to be on Bob and Tom, all kinds of shows, because I was very good at calling out names, dates, boop, boop, boop. In the moment, I wouldn't have to know anything, and I would just be. And the difference between after 50-some years of doing my work, I know we're in present time, because people will come, they go, well, why can't you tell me the same thing, that exactly this, I have your old tapes, and I had a guy drive from Atlanta a month ago, he found an old tape of mine from 30 years ago and everything in the tape. He drove up and he goes, and I was trying to do this healing with him. He goes, well, why can't you tell me? Like I said, because we're in present time. It's up to you. We're not in the time right now where things are written in stone. We're not in that karmatic time. You have your free will with our free will, we predestine ourselves, right? But we're in a time right now where we can use our free will to no longer. So I see things, and some things are very concrete, but it's not like the old days. But she knows, you've seen it. I was very good at I could predict a lot of things.
So you see things.
It's because I was in that present state. It was already there.
So help me understand. So you would say, or not you would say, you have seen things about a person's past and future at the same time. Mm-hmm. Because
it's about the same thing.
Right. Yeah. So do you ever find yourself in the position where you do not want to tell them?
Yes, of course.
And, and how do you manage that? Is that an ethical dilemma for you? What is that?
I always think I will give, if I feel something or I'm shown something, I will sit with it for a minute to ask for discernment about sharing it. But I think that's why a lot of people, I was wanting to be I have a degree in theater and psychology. I had wanted to be a therapist, but the way they train people is so awful. You can't say this. You can't do that. You got to do that. No, sometimes you've got to be real. So I always ask for the discernment, but if something is coming through really, really strongly, I will say it. And I can tell you historically, I have seen things where people could do something about what I saw.
I see.
I've seen something like, you need to go have your lungs checked. Don't be panicked, but go.
I have an exact story about that. I had dinner last night with a girlfriend of mine who Marilene met when we were out in California visiting. And she had not met her husband, my friend's husband. And she said to Beth, she goes, "Does your husband needs to get his left ankle checked? There's something wrong."
Oh my God, I remember this.
Do you remember that?
We
were at the Marymount. We were at the Hotel Marymount. Yeah. And Beth was like, "What do you mean?" And she went home and she said, "Joe, do you have trouble with your ankles? Because and he goes, "Yeah, my left ankle's really been bothering me lately." And he went and he had some issue that was causing his ankles to swell, and he had no idea. And it was a precursor, I think. Right. I don't know to what disease, but like a diabetic condition.
I will see something, and it's something that people can do something.
And you had never met Beth before.
So for the people who don't see that, I don't see that. Right. What does that mean when you're sitting talking to a woman, you've never met her husband, and you say you see something about her husband? Is there a way to articulate what that is?
It comes up sometimes for me, just in natural conversation. I'll just go, you better check your tire because blah, 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 blah. And I really do think that people know a lot of these things, but we're so taught we don't know. It's not that I'm so special. I think people are very disempowered and taught what to think or they don't feel whatever. I think more people do think about gut feelings. Through the years, I've had a lot of people in business or scientific people, and they'll come to me because they'll say, "Oh my God, I want to share this because, I don't know who I'm going to tell these experiences to, but I made my money from a gut feeling, or I would have dreams about what stock to buy." Or I think intuition comes to people in different ways.
You seem, Dr. Rob, I'm going to make an assumption. I've known you that well for very long, but you seem like the kind of guy. Has this ever happened? I know you're a scientist,
yeah, I have.
But it has to have happened to you because it happens to me a lot. Like I'll go, the phone's going to ring and I'll know who it is before I pick it up.
Or you'll be thinking about the person.
Or you think about somebody, like the other day, thinking about somebody you haven't heard from or seen for years, and all of a sudden they call or an email pops up or something.
Absolutely.
So you're dialed in.
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you.
Right, but you were dialed into
you're
that.
You're picking up on it.
Because I think that really happens to a lot more people, and they don't realize what really is happening there. But that is there's something there. I mean, I've had that
natural flow where people know they shouldn't go somewhere. They get at the last minute.
I'm not getting on that airplane.
Yeah. God. I could tell you story after story. Normal people that never had a psychic thought in their life that had dramatic stories about that kind of thing.
Then you have survivor guilt. Then you're in a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, but then it's the same thing. More and more, if you start to dissect your life, you'll see that there is an inner guidance that guides you towards staying away from things and why you're interested in certain things. And you being around animals, because they're so magnificent, they are so filled with emotions. How people could ever think they don't have emotions or feelings is the most bizarre thought that I could ever imagine. Because
but they're pure, aren't
they're
they?
pure. They're very unconditional love. They come from they emanate. They're divine. They're fabulous.
Yeah.
I'd rather be around animals than most people. Not all.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, they're just. And I would love to do healing with animals. I do a lot of healing with that because they're very easy. They'll actually turn their bodies for me to lay the hands on. They're kind of more resistant. Animals they'll show you things.
I also believe, and this is all just my own opinion, and especially for someone like you, I think that
Me?
yes,
What did I do?
I think people of a more in tune level can relate to animals better, and they relate to you better.
100%. They know. They
feel it.
Oh, I trust my animals explicitly. They will tell you in a heartbeat.
If you were at the zoo with him one day, every animal in that zoo is connected to Dr.
I am
Rob.
sure of that.
Every single one.
That,
I mean, and he connects to them.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't just happen.
No.
I do. I will say I know that there are a lot of people, and I just don't mean people that work in zoos with their pets, everything, any animal.
Sure.
Right.
And how people are able to relate and understand and connect to animals in general can be so dramatically different from one person to the next.
It's
but
true.
they all think they're doing it, but they're not.
Right.
True.
But they're not. Everybody thinks they're brilliant at it, but they're not. And it is amazing when you see the differences from people. I guess all that is to say I completely agree with you that people have extremely different abilities when it comes to working around animals. Not so much for them because they may think they're terrific.
Right.
But
you
it's
judge,
what the
you see how
animals
the
think
animal.
But
That's
the
right.
animals
That's
are
right.
the true judge.
That's right. Yeah, that's
like,
right.
I'll give you a really quick example. So people call me off into their home, and the second if I'm with a baby or a child or an animal, my instinct, I get on the floor and I get eye level.
Of
and
course.
people flip out. They go,
Yeah, of
well,
course.
our trainer told me we have to be dominant. I go, that's your problem
so
right
wrong.
there.
So wrong.
Sitting on the floor and being eye to eye is not showing dominance.
So wrong.
That's not. Yeah, that's
Connecting.
So I get it. It's
And I will say that it sounds like a really old kind of belief, but if my dog doesn't trust someone or like someone, I take that seriously.
Yeah, I should have done that.
That's
Where were
hilarious.
you 28 years ago, dude?
That's funny. Oh yeah, no, I had 2 huskies and a Malamute, and they're not really known as guard dogs. But let me tell you, one day I'd ordered a bunch of furniture from someplace, and there were tons of people in my house. All of a sudden, I hear this guy, and I didn't realize how close he was standing into my space. And he goes, "Call your dogs off! Call your dogs off!" But both of the huskies and the Malamute had their teeth bared, and they were in a crouch position. And I said, "Who's in charge?" I said, "Get this man out of my house." I probably said worse things, but I said, "There's something wrong." Mm-hmm. These dogs, they knew. They knew. I've had cats, because I have a lot of cats. I have cats.
Yes.
I had cats actually. I had a woman one time, and she wouldn't leave, and she weighed about 400 pounds. This was early in my work. And she wouldn't get up, and she was the most negative person. My cat looked at me, and he went over and peed on her foot, and she got up so fast, and she left. It's a true story. I lived right next to the Children's Museum. I lived at the Drake.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So
That's so funny, but it's true.
So how about the places that everybody, I guess I would say it this way, where they make their reputation on being haunted? Places like New Orleans. Mm-hmm. When you go there,
below sea level, I got sick. I've been there twice, and I was with a group of Tibetan monks, and I got deathly ill. There's a lot of voodoo there. Think about it. It's a land of voodoo. Really, it was a lot of the
And
French.
what, do you believe in voodoo?
Well, real voodoo. Well,
And
there's
explain
Santeria.
voodoo.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Santeria is a combination of Catholicism and other things. and they kill animals to sacrifice. It's all that kind of stuff. I've had to deal with people who've gone to those kind of people to do work, to do but you don't want to misuse energy like that. Yeah. It's a real thing. It's usually Catholicism mixed with things from Africa or different beliefs from different, more indigenous peoples, but it's very real. And so I think with New Orleans or any of the places like that, when you misuse energy and you turn people into zombies or you purposely put the root on somebody, you're going to have some stuff going on. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a woman come to me one time. I'll give you an example. She thought she was really evolved. She goes, well, I know I did something wrong because I went to this woman and I had her put a spell. I was in love with this guy I worked with and I didn't want my husband to be alone. So I had her do a love spell to make somebody my husband could find somebody. And then I wanted this guy to love me. $60,000 late. This is a true story. This is back in the 70s, long time ago. The man at work turned out to be a crazy person and was obsessed with her. Her husband met somebody that he fell in love with genuinely, and they left. And she got what the lesson was. You don't misuse energy. You don't have there's a divine blueprint. And if you don't have to make things happen. You don't have to, it's horrible. You don't have the right to pray against people or to wish or to do these kind of practices. It's wrong.
So if someone
it will come back to you in a bad way.
If someone is misusing, is it an accurate description to say that you and that person may have the same abilities, but it's how you use it, or are they different abilities?
I think sometimes people that are into witchcraft and are into misusing, and to me it's misusing, they don't really feel powerful from within. All their practices are invoking. They're always invoking. And mine's coming from within, and it's a different way of knowing. It's not about having to call in this or call in that or do this ceremony or ritual or burn this or do you. Well, that's what the whole story of Jesus. I came away to take away the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, the animal sacrifice. He chased the money changers out of the temple. They were selling, it came to bring a state of grace. And the state of grace is love, not fear. And that I think people that are drawn to the witchcraft and to the sacrificial thing I think it's old memory. I think it comes from the old world. If something has to die to live or something, yeah.
Do you think there are good witches and bad witches?
I was going to ask the same
thing.
thing.
Would you consider yourself a good witch?
No, I don't like that word because I think it's very misunderstood.
Which word? Good witch?
No, the word witch. I don't like because it's so maligned. It's so many people that were killed during the Inquisition, for example, were wealthy women landowners. They were midwives. They were herbologists. It had nothing to do with that.
Being witches, right?
And I think that people use it too lightly because you don't need to do that.
So what do you call the people who operate that way or who focus on dark things? How do you refer to them?
I pray for them. Or I feel bad because it's like
is there a way to refer to them? Because you said witch is not the right term.
I think that everything will come to the light. I think that there are people that they have some abilities, but they're operating more out of that fear. When you're fearful, you want to control. You want to be in control, or you want to be controlled. And I don't feel that need to control. It's not. I feel faith, right? That things just they happen. It's the way they should happen. You don't have that need to. I want to pray for this home, or it's all about that greed and money or make somebody fall. The spells. No, it's like that's not natural. But I think there are people that really can be. It never lasts and it never works. They can do things, but it doesn't stay.
Yeah. So you were in Indonesia a few times.
Oh,
you've been there
a bunch of times. Yeah.
So this is a different conversation.
East Africa, Indonesia.
But we were talking, and I can't even remember about headhunters.
Oh,
were we
that's
not?
The whole thing.
Oh yeah, well, it's a real thing.
Yeah, because you've been exposed to that.
Sure. Well,
right?
Cannibalism.
I don't want to exaggerate it. I mean, I've met people, and that was historically part of their culture.
Right.
Yeah, historically.
Okay.
But you probably felt the frequency would be very.
Were you afraid? I mean, did you feel an energy there, or did you?
I wasn't afraid. There's not a lot of things that I'm rarely afraid.
See, I'm in the same.
Yeah, I don't really ever.
Nothing scares you.
Oh.
Well, things can scare people.
Sure.
But I don't operate from fear. I just I know if I'm someplace, that's where I'm supposed to be, and I know I'm protected.
Yeah, I mean, there are events. If events would happen, that would be very scary. Mm-hmm. If something would happen to a loved one, of course, that scares me.
Yeah.
But being just in a state of fear, no, that doesn't really exist for me.
Right.
But I thought you were going to ask about witch talk.
Oh, witch talk. Oh, he's fascinated by this.
Fascinated by it.
So
What
we were
is
talking
it?
about TikTok. We were talking about social media at dinner, and I am not on TikTok. I mean, everyone else is, but that's the one social media thing I don't do. And we were saying,
A lot of
Marilene-
clients of mine were begging. First one on Facebook a million years ago to stalk my son, and instantly had 5,000 followers because people said, "We're glad you're on here finally." So people started contacting me a couple of years ago. You need to get on TikTok, and people will put stuff mine up. There's a thing called witch talk. I go, no. They go, yes, it's real, and it's anything you can think of in just out and out spells and witchcraft and people. But the one person sent me that was the most scary to me. This woman looked very normal. She looked actually like almost too very
Put together,
smart, very
beautiful.
put together, and very nice. And she explains how to use energy. At the very end, she goes, "But I've taught you these things, but you can use it for bad or good. It doesn't matter." I was like sick when I saw that.
Wow.
Of course it matters.
Of course it matters.
Yes.
And that's what you mean by witch
And a
talk.
lot of people that want to just use their evil. And it's just like TikTok, but it's a lot of people that are witches.
That are
openly
using that
out
medium.
in and just to express what they do and how to do spells and how to make.
Yeah.
And I have found, I could tell you stories personally that's another show, where I found voodoo bags under a car and there was an accident. I come under psychic attack because of what I do, but I'm always protected. But Glenda, my assistant of many, many years, we could tell you story after story of interesting things it's just real, but it's not as powerful as the light.
Wow.
So that's the message here.
Yeah, that's right.
Go to the light.
Go to the light.
And the light's going to get brighter.
Right.
Just pay attention. Don't be afraid of what you're activated by right now. Just embrace it and heal it. That's all.
So if somebody's in a state where they're fearful or everything is overwhelming for them, what's the first simple step that you would offer to them?
Just to not judge them and believe people, and to know all depression is are repressed feelings. They're denied feelings. And that it's okay to feel those things, but you don't have to live in that state. Different. I can tell you so many examples. My mother had dementia, but it wasn't terrible dementia, and she lived with me. But then when she was in the nursing home, there's a woman who held this baby all the time, and she said the bad man was going to get her. And the nurses go, "Oh, ignore her." I said, "I'm not going to ignore her." I went over and I held the baby and I talked to her. I said, "No, the bad man's not." I knew right away she'd been molested as a child, because when you have dementia, you go back.
Oh.
I knew exactly why and there were several people that they would be trapped in these states and the people there were saying, "Oh yeah, no, you don't ignore them. They're not." Same thing with people that I've dealt with schizophrenic, people have been labeled schizophrenic, but I can kind of see what they're seeing, right? And so once I can tell them I see that, they calm down. And then there's ways to heal things. People who really aren't that mentally ill, it's like, yeah. It's like there's a lot of what people are actually experiencing, but they don't know how to deal. It's overwhelming to them.
So is there a way for someone to act on their own, or does someone need to assist them?
Sure. No, I think that people, the first place to start if you're depressed or if you are feeling overwhelmed is to take a walk in nature or go be in a place, quiet your mind in that way of being in a beautiful place, being around, go to the zoo, go be around nature, and it will help heal you. It is a natural thing.
Have you heard that term forest bathing?
No, but I love it.
That's a new one started in Japan.
I love that.
That it's exactly what you just said. Being in nature and you bathe in the forest
because it's real.
Yeah, it's
grounding.
real.
Take your shoes off and you get into the
ground.
Yes.
We used to walk barefoot, so we have natural connections with the earth.
Yeah.
All that. It's because we are meant to be in harmony, and so much of unfortunately, the other stuff is a distraction. Yeah, it's returning to the garden. Like when we were kids, we played outside. We weren't on stuff, right? It was different.
Yeah.
What?
I think
a fantastic conversation.
We'll return to the garden. I think this has been great.
Paradise found.
Yes, and I am so appreciative for you and for our friendship and for all the things that you've done for all of my friends and lots of people out there that have really benefited from being in your aura, if you will.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad you got to meet Dr.
What a
Rob.
pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
And a lot of people know me by Marilene Isaacs Kauffman.
Yes,
that's
true. I'm sorry. I never know.
It's Kauffman. No, I use the whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, this is what a blessing. I was so excited to do this, and it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Marilene.
Once again, definitely worth your time.
Oh,
Marilene
fantastic.
Isaacs Kauffman, where can we find you on the dreaded social media or on the websites?
On
or where?
Instagram, I'm on Marilene Joy, Marilene Joy is my middle name.
Okay.
Or Marilene Isaacs Kauffman, I'm on Facebook. And you can see other phone numbers and things there.
Oh, you are easy to find.
Yeah.
You are easy to find.
Do you want to promote the Center for Peace? Or?
Yeah, and I have a Center of Peace, and I have an actual place people can come to. I don't just do virtual like everybody wants to do these days. You can actually come to a place.
And you do have a website for that.
And I do have a website, Marilene.org.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marilene.
Yes,
I enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure.
And the energy is so warm in here because it's that energy.
You've been listening to Worth Your Time with Dr. Rob Shoemaker and Kristi Lee. If you like what you hear, please give a review wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to tell your friends. Word of mouth is the best compliment. Thanks to our producers, Chris Spangle of Leaders and Legends, LLC. You can reach him at leadersandlegends.net. Also, thanks to Sophie Ritz. I'm Christopher Geisen. Thanks for joining us.